Every single time this happens, you trot out the same bullshit talking points to try and point the finger in every single other direction except the most obvious, the guns. Let's get this out of the way first. Yeah, I have them too. It's not the same day, so we can talk about it now, right? That's a completely ridiculous, tired argument. I'm sick and tired of hearing it. Don't talk about it. Don't politicize it. Now's not the time. Yeah, I'm sure if the shooter was a Muslim, they'd be singing the same tune, right? Like after the San Bernardino shooting in 2015, no talk whatsoever about banning all Muslims from entering the country.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
Right. And I distinctly remember a lot of nonstop rambling about how bail reform was responsible for a jack-off driving into a Christmas parade.
Liberal bail reform policies wreaking havoc.
Why aren't they considering bail reform policies the root of the problem?
The left, they want a revolving door. They want catch and release, whether it's on the southern border or whether it's through our criminal justice system.
Defund, dismantle the police, no bail, low bail. Wokester, junior DAs.
There are radical agendas.
How is all of this working out for the country?
Yeah. And if he'd killed those people with guns, they'd still be pointing the finger toward bail reform and away from guns. Don't politicize it. You want to know what's really politicizing this? Letting babies get gunned down and immediately trying to shut down any and all discussions of how to prevent it because that's what you're being paid to do. Knowing full well any conversation that takes place long after everyone has moved on goes nowhere. That's politicizing it. Thoughts and prayers. That's another one I'm sick and tired of, which roughly translates to, I'm trying to signal that I care, but don't actually give a shit enough to actually do anything about it, even though I'm in a position to. As far as I'm concerned, it's spitting in the face of every single person who was gunned down, every one of their family members, friends, everyone who's been affected by this, so please spare us this garbage. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Yeah, right. People do kill people with guns. Nothing could have stopped this person from doing what they did. No changes whatsoever would make a difference. We should just keep doing everything exactly the same way we are now. The gun laws we have are enough, which is essentially saying the things we already have in place that didn't stop this shooting will somehow be sufficient to stop the next one. That somehow doing the same thing over and over and over and over again will yield a different result. But yet so many who make this argument have no problem with believing that more guns is the answer. They have no problem believing that. Believing we need to arm more people. That this is somehow definitely going to work. Anything else, off the table, but definitely more guns. Give me a break. But okay, all right, let's look at some of them then, shall we? Good guy with a gun. Ah, if it was only that easy. Yeah, tell that to Aaron Salter, the good guy and former police officer who tried to step in but was gunned down in Buffalo. Didn't consider that shooters might have body armor? And what happens when the police are called to an active shooting and they see the good guy walking around with the gun? There's a good chance the good guy will be mistaken for the shooter and get shot. Like what happened to John Hurley. What happens when someone starts shooting in this crowded place? Chaos. It's hard even for the police sometimes to tell what's happening, where the threat is, what's going on, and they've been extensively trained for this very type of thing, these very scenarios. So if we go with this good guy with the gun BS as a potentially our only solution, it's actually more likely to get more people shot after being mistaken for a threat. Generally, people, including police officers, don't see a person with a gun and think, oh good, there's a good guy with a gun. They see a gun and think, threat, threat, threat. Is that gun going to be used against me? Prepare for fight or flight. And what difference would a good guy with a gun make to a person who decides to go and shoot up a place? When they know that when they go somewhere and start shooting, the police, who all have guns, are going to be there to arrest or shoot them within a matter of minutes.
Onlookers urged police to rush into school and confront the shooter, but claimed those officers did not enter the building. In fact, one parent told the AP he and other parents considered racing inside themselves. They were so upset at what they felt was police inaction as the shooting unfolded. 40 minutes to an hour elapsed from when Ramos opened fire on a school security officer to when the tactical team shot him.
Good guy with a gun. Arming teachers. Here's an especially stupid idea. We don't give money to teachers to buy basic supplies, and now we want to put a gun in each of their hands? And we don't pay them enough to do the actual job that they're doing, and now you want to train them to be armed security guards as well? Think of how long it took for many teachers to figure out online teaching. Now you want to put a lethal weapon in their hands? And that's another thing. Teachers have been the targets of vicious attacks, accusing them of abusing and grooming children by asking them to wear masks, or even broaching topics like sex, race, or our history, but you want to trust them with a loaded weapon around the kids? You're going to actively put more guns into schools? more readily accessible to students. Better yet, let's just arm all the students. Yeah, it's a fantastic idea. We could even make target practice a regular part of the curriculum. Teach future shooters how to take better aim at their classmates. The most likely scenario is one of those guns accidentally going off and hitting one of them, but instead of actually dealing with the weapons, you've been spending your time focusing on the imminent threat of those dangerous books. They're coming to take your guns. Are you kidding me? Really? I'm so tired of this. No one is coming to take your guns. Stop falling for this bull. And who is they supposed to be anyway? Definitely not the Republicans. The feckless Democrats who can't even get a basic background check bill through? Please. No one is coming to take your guns. It's not going to happen. We'll be safer if good law-abiding citizens have easier access to more guns. Oh yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, we already have lots of guns. So many guns, in fact, there are more of them than people, and pretty easy to access. And more gun violence and these kind of mass shootings than anywhere else. But if we have even more guns and make them even easier to access, then we'll somehow have less of these shootings? Right. Makes perfect sense. Yeah, about as much sense as a screen door on a submarine. What really happens when people have more access to guns? They're more likely to solve problems they'd otherwise solve with their fists with guns. Now, I'm not advocating for fist fights, but it's a hell of a lot better than the alternative of a shootout. If more guns only make us safer, how come you have no problem banning them wherever you're going to be? That's right, guns banned to protect politicians at an NRA event. Where's the outrage? By your own logic, you're putting everyone attending in grave danger by not allowing them to bring their guns. How could you knowingly make such a reckless decision? It's time for these so-called leaders to step up to the plate and demand that any and all weapons be allowed into this and any future events they may attend out of concern for their safety and the safety of everyone there. Yeah, I won't hold my breath on that one. We shouldn't have any limits or controls on our ability to own firearms. Let me ask you a question. Should any person be allowed to have a nuclear weapon? If yes, then you're a hopeless cause and need therapy. Lots and lots and lots of therapy. If no, hey, guess what? You believe in arms control. Glad we were able to clear that up. Now we're just talking about what degree of control we should have. Regulations won't stop all gun crimes, so they don't matter. Yeah, right. That's why there's not currently a huge push to ban and put major restrictions on abortion, because it won't make a difference anyway and just infringes on the freedoms of good, law-abiding people. Oh, right, there is. Yeah, and you have no problem there, do you? Funny how this only applies when it's something that you want. And under this logic, we could just do away with all laws, since they don't really work anyway, so no more laws. Doesn't make much sense, does it? It's our God-given right to own guns, but it's not a woman's God-given right to have an abortion in the beginning stages of a pregnancy. Instead, the government owns the bodies of women from the moment they get pregnant. So how about this? No abortion bans without firearm bans. Agreed? No, of course not. But there's a major difference, you may say. Gun rights are actually in the Constitution and abortion isn't. It's the Second Amendment, dummy. Yeah, there's also this little part about militias being necessary and that other part I always forget. It's, well-regulated. Regulation is specifically cited in the damn amendment. Regulated maybe just a little, some, adequately, no, well-regulated. It doesn't say you have an individual right to own a gun. The individual right was derived from a Supreme Court decision in 2008. Not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't specifically say each and every person has a right to bear arms. It was interpreted that way by the justices. The same way a right to an abortion was interpreted, or gay marriage, or birth control, or interracial marriage. None of these things are explicitly outlined as rights in the Constitution. They were all interpreted that way by the justices. By the way, the decision in 2008, D.C. v. Heller, the gun rights case, 5-4. Roe v. Wade, 7-2. And that's going away. So guess what? Individual firearm rights can go away too, and instead interpreted as only government-sanctioned militias having the rights to bear arms, which in the modern day is the equivalent of a National Guard and police that fulfill those same functions that militias once did. All right, so I've been ranting a little bit. What kinds of solutions would I propose? Well, let's just do something basic. Something, anything, even if it's mostly symbolic, is better than nothing. At least it's something. Considering how divisive this issue is, let's do what nearly everyone agrees with. Here are 3 possibilities. Preventing people with mental illnesses from purchasing guns. 87% support. Great. But more broadly, let's improve mental health care in this country and the ability to get the kind of care that people need. That will help out a lot of people. Background checks for private gun sales and gun shows. 80% support. Awesome. Closing this massive loophole. Background checks in general, widely supported. We could do that. Require permits to carry a concealed gun. 80% support. All right, so those are 3 items. Let's just pick one, any of them. Let's just do one of them as a sign of good faith that we're actually giving a about protecting innocent lives. Otherwise, if you're not willing to do even the absolute bare minimum, just admit it. Just admit that you don't really care about the lives of the babies who were gunned down in Texas or in Sandy Hook, or the lives of any of the other hundreds of thousands who've been gunned down in recent years. Just admit that you just love guns. You love guns and the status that those guns give you. And for many others, the money that comes from selling them. You care more about those guns than you do about human lives. Then when it comes down to it, you believe you're entitled to never have to face any kind of inconvenience or sacrifice anything in any way whatsoever, even if other people, including little babies and children, suffer and die as a result. And if you claim to have fundamentalist stances of being pro-gun and pro-life, you're not out there consistently showing the same outrage about these living, breathing, flesh and blood babies as you do for a small cluster of unformed, unrecognizable cells, you're not really pro-life, are you? You're completely full of baby killer. Yeah, it doesn't feel good, does it? Look. This thing, it's just a tool. It's just a tool. It's not something to be loved. It's not something to be worshipped. And it's not something that has more value than a life. Somewhere along the way, you lost sight of that. And you start elevating the gun above all else. It's not a status symbol. It's a tool. And a very dangerous tool at that. If you think this thing has more value, if you think this is more important than this, then you're out of your mind. Not for a moment, in any kind of conceivable way would I ever think that. I can look at myself in the mirror and know that. I can look into my little girl's eyes and know that. Can you?